the day I retired after 40 years as a pediatric nurse. My daughter-in-law, Amanda, announced during my retirement party, "I'm selling your car, Evelyn. You don't need it anymore." My son Jack stood silently beside her. I just smiled. The next morning, my car vanished from the driveway. Not because she took it, but because I gave it away to someone who truly deserved it. I had been planning this for weeks. I never thought my retirement would begin this way. After dedicating 4 decades of my life to caring for sick children at Memorial Hospital, I had imagined a peaceful transition into my golden years. That blue Buick had been with me through everything life had thrown my way. It wasn't just transportation. It was the last gift my husband Thomas gave me before his heart attack took him 15 years ago, when our son Jack was just 10 years old. Thomas and I had saved for years to buy that car. "This will keep my 2 favorite people safe," he had said, handing me the keys with that warm smile that still visits me in my dreams. 3 months later, he was gone, and that Buick became my lifeline as a suddenly single mother. I raised Jack alone after that, driving him to school in that car, to baseball practice, to his first date, and eventually to college. I maintained it meticulously, changing the oil every 3,000 miles, just as Thomas would have. The mechanic at Pete's auto shop always joked that my 15-year-old car ran better than most new ones. When Jack graduated with his architecture degree, he insisted on driving us home in that same car. "Dad would be so proud," he had said, and I knew it was true. Jack had grown into everything his father had hoped for: smart, ambitious, and kind. That kindness seemed to fade gradually after he met Amanda at the hospital fundraiser 3 years ago. She worked in pharmaceutical sales and had the kind of polished beauty that turned heads. I was happy when Jack seemed smitten he deserved love after focusing so intensely on his career. Their romance moved quickly, and within 6 months, they were married in an elaborate ceremony that Amanda insisted upon. The changes in Jack were subtle at first. Missed Sunday dinners, phone calls that grew shorter, plans canceled at the last minute. When they did visit, Amanda dominated the conversation, often cutting Jack off mid-sentence to clarify what he meant. I watched my confident son become increasingly quiet in her presence. My retirement had been carefully planned. I had volunteered occasionally with a children's medical transport charity run by my former colleague Sarah, and had arranged to drive sick children to their appointments 3 days a week. That Buick, with its spacious back seat and smooth ride, would be perfect for making frightened children feel comfortable on their way to treatments. So when Amanda suddenly announced she was organizing my retirement party, I was surprised but grateful. Perhaps I had misjudged her. The party was beautiful, held in the community center with nearly 50 of my colleagues and friends. It was during the toast that Jack nervously mentioned he had given Amanda power of attorney over some family affairs to help me transition to retirement. Before I could process what that meant, Amanda clinked her glass again. "And since Evelyn won't be needing to drive to work anymore, I'm selling her car. At her age, driving is really not safe anyway." The room fell silent. I felt my cheeks burn as 50 pairs of eyes turned to me. My friend Nancy squeezed my hand under the table. "That's thoughtful of you, Amanda," I said, forcing a smile. "We can discuss it later." Later never came. Amanda and Jack left immediately after the party, claiming another engagement. When I returned home, still in shock, I opened my laptop to check email and clear my mind. That's when I saw it. An email notification from a local buying and selling site. Someone had commented on my listing. I never created any listing. With shaking hands, I clicked through to find professional-looking photos of my Buick, inside and out, with a detailed description and a price that was well below its value. The email showed multiple inquiries and scheduled viewings for the following day. The photos had been taken in my garage when I wasn't home. Amanda had been in my house, taking pictures of my property, creating listings in my name. And from what Jack had said at the party, she might legally have the right to do it. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Thomas handing me those keys, his face alight with pride at being able to provide something special for his family. I remembered teaching Jack to drive in that car, his 16-year-old face intense with concentration as he carefully navigated our neighborhood streets. The back seat had carried Jack's dorm supplies to college, his graduation gown, and later, his wedding tuxedo. My alarm clock showed 5:30 when I gave up on sleep. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen window, watching the morning light illuminate my faithful Buick in the driveway. Soon, according to Amanda's listing, strangers would be arriving to look at it, test drive it, haggle over a price that was already too low. The doorbell rang at 10. It was Amanda, wearing sleek workout clothes and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Good morning, Evelyn. I'm here to show your car to some interested buyers. I've got 3 appointments today." "Amanda, we haven't discussed this. That car is mine, and I need it for my volunteer work." She stepped past me into the house. "Jack and I talked about it, and volunteering at your age isn't practical. Besides, the money from the car will help with your expenses now that you're on a fixed income." "My finances are perfectly fine," I said, following her through my own house. "I've been planning for retirement for years." "Well, there are always unexpected expenses," she said, opening my refrigerator and helping herself to a bottled water. "Which reminds me, this house is really too big for just you. All these stairs can't be safe." Jack and I were thinking it might be time to look at some nice senior communities. I stood speechless as she walked around my kitchen, opening cabinets and drawers. "You know, I could help organize all this. There's so much stuff you don't need. We could have a great estate sale." "I don't need an estate sale, Amanda. I'm retired, not deceased." She laughed as though I'd made a charming joke, then glanced at her watch. "Oh, Mr. Peterson will be here in 10 minutes to see the car. Do you mind if I wait here? I brought some files to work on." Without waiting for my answer, she spread papers across my dining table. As I made another cup of coffee to steady my nerves, I noticed they were my financial statements. Statements I kept in my home office, in my desk drawer. "Where did you get those?" I asked. Jack brought them over. "We're just trying to get a complete picture of your situation to help you." She smiled that empty smile again. The transition to retirement can be confusing for seniors. "I'm 65, I wanted to say, not senile. But before I could respond, her phone rang with the prospective car buyer outside. This pattern continued for days. Amanda rearranged my furniture without asking. She brought in catalogs for retirement communities located hours away from my home and friends. She organized my closet, putting beloved items in donation bags. When my friend Nancy came for lunch, she noticed immediately. "Evelyn, what's going on? Your house looks different." I explained Amanda's sudden involvement in my life. "This isn't right," Nancy said, her voice low. "Barbara at church mentioned that Amanda told her you've been getting confused lately, that you sometimes don't recognize family members." "That's absolutely false," I said, shocked. "I know that," Nancy assured me. "But they're creating a narrative, Evelyn. You need to be careful." That evening, I tried calling Jack at his office, hoping to talk to him alone. His secretary said he was in a meeting. I called 3 more times that week with the same result. When I drove to his office building, Amanda was unexpectedly in the lobby. "Evelyn! What a surprise!" Jack just stepped out for a client meeting across town. The secretary behind her looked confused, but said nothing. On Sunday after church, I overheard Amanda telling my neighbor that I'd been wandering and they were concerned about my driving. My hands shook with anger and fear as I walked to my car. When I arrived home, Amanda's SUV was in my driveway. I found her in my home office, the file cabinet open, more of my personal documents spread across the desk. "What are you doing?" I demanded. "Just helping organize your papers. Did you know your property taxes went up?" Jack and I were thinking, since this house is so valuable now, it might make sense to sell it. The market's hot, and the proceeds would pay for years in a really nice facility. I stood in my own office, in my own home, and felt like a stranger. That night, I couldn't sleep again. At 2 in the morning, I went to my computer and logged into my bank accounts. something I hadn't done in a few weeks with all the retirement activities. There were transfers I didn't recognize, small amounts moving from my savings to an account I didn't own. Not enough to trigger fraud alerts, but consistent $500 here, $700 there. When I checked my investment accounts, I found login attempts from an unrecognized device. With shaking hands, I searched Amanda's name online, digging deeper than I had when Jack first introduced her. Buried in local news archives from her hometown 600 miles away, I found it. Amanda Walker, her maiden name, had been accused of financial impropriety at her previous job. The charges were ultimately dropped, but she had left town immediately after. As I continued searching, more concerning information emerged. Amanda had massive credit card debt spread across multiple cards. She and Jack had recently applied for a second mortgage on their home. And most disturbing of all, she had been researching how to establish guardianship over elderly relatives when there were concerns about competence. They weren't just after my car. They were after everything. The next morning, I called my attorney, Richard Lawson, who had handled Thomas's estate and had been my legal advisor for decades. "I need to see you today, Richard. It's urgent." 2 hours later, I sat in his office, laying out everything that had happened: the power of attorney, the unauthorized access to my accounts, the lies about my mental state, the plans to sell my home. Actually, I spoke with my attorney yesterday. Any power of attorney Jack gave you has been formally revoked. And since the car was titled solely in my name, I had every legal right to donate it. "Will that be enough?" I asked. "It's a start. But if they're building a case that you're incompetent, we need to counter that directly. I'm going to refer you to Dr. Myers for a full cognitive assessment. He's respected by the courts and completely independent." I left Richard's office with a plan, and my first sense of control in weeks. On my way home, I stopped by the Children's Medical Transport Charity, where my former colleague Sarah worked as director. Sarah greeted me with a warm hug. "Evelyn, perfect timing. I was going to call you about starting your volunteer schedule." I hesitated, then decided to be honest. "Sarah, I'm dealing with a difficult situation." I explained about Amanda's interference and the threatened sale of my car. Sarah listened with growing concern. "That's terrible, Evelyn. But maybe there's something we could do that would help us both." She explained that the charity had recently received a grant to purchase a vehicle, but the paperwork and procurement process would take months. Meanwhile, children were missing appointments because of transportation issues. "What if," Sarah suggested, "you donated your car to the charity now? It would be a tax write-off for you, immediate help for us, and legally it would be beyond Amanda's reach." I considered the idea carefully. My Buick would continue its legacy of care, helping children get the medical treatment they needed, and it would prevent Amanda from selling it out from under me. So, when Amanda suddenly announced she was organizing my retirement party, I was surprised but grateful. Perhaps I had misjudged her. The party was beautiful, held in the community center with nearly 50 of my colleagues and friends. It was during the toast that Jack nervously mentioned he had given Amanda power of attorney over some family affairs to help me transition to retirement. "If you're sure, we can process the paperwork today and transfer the title first thing tomorrow." That night, I packed essential documents and a small bag of clothes. I called my sister Barbara, briefly explaining the situation, and she immediately invited me to stay with her. "Come tonight," she insisted. "You shouldn't be alone with this hanging over you." Before leaving, I photographed every room in my house to document its current state. Then, I drove my beloved Buick to Barbara's, where I signed the donation paperwork Sarah had prepared. At 6 the next morning, Sarah arrived with a charity volunteer who would drive my car to the charity's secure lot. I handed over the keys, feeling a complex mixture of sadness and satisfaction. "Take good care of her," I told the young volunteer. "She's carried my family safely for 15 years. "We'll honor your gift," Sarah promised, hugging me goodbye. As they drove away, Barbara brought me a cup of coffee. "Are you okay?" "No," I admitted. "But I will be." My phone rang at 9:30. Amanda's number. I let it go to voicemail. She called 5 more times in succession. Finally, I answered. "Where are you?" she demanded without greeting. "And where is the car? The Thompsons are here to test drive it." "Good morning, Amanda," I said calmly. "I've decided to donate my car to the Children's Medical Transport Charity. The paperwork was completed yesterday, and they've already taken possession of it." There was a moment of stunned silence before her voice returned, tight with fury. "You had no right to do that. Jack gave me authority to handle your affairs." So, when Amanda suddenly announced she was organizing my retirement party, I was surprised but grateful. Perhaps I had misjudged her. The party was beautiful, held in the community center with nearly 50 of my colleagues and friends. It was during the toast that Jack nervously mentioned he had given Amanda power of attorney over some family affairs to help me transition to retirement. The stream of threats that followed confirmed everything I had suspected about Amanda's character. She would contest the donation. She would have me evaluated for mental competence. I would never see my grandchildren when they had them. I remained calm. "Amanda, I've documented everything you've done without my consent, accessing my financial accounts, attempting to sell my property, spreading false information about my mental state. My attorney has all of this information. I suggest you reconsider your approach." She hung up. 30 minutes later, she and Jack appeared at Barbara's door. Barbara, bless her, refused to let them in until I indicated I was willing to speak with them. When they entered the living room, Amanda was barely containing her rage, while Jack looked confused and upset. "Mom, what's going on? Why did you leave your house? Why did you give away your car without talking to us first?" Before I could answer, Amanda cut in. "She's being manipulated by someone. This isn't like her, Jack. This is exactly what I was worried about, her making irrational decisions." I looked directly at my son. "Jack, I've been trying to talk to you for weeks. You haven't returned my calls. You've been avoiding me while Amanda goes through my personal documents, attempts to access my accounts, and tells our friends and family that I'm mentally unstable." Jack shook his head. "That's not. We've just been concerned about you living alone after retirement." I opened my laptop and showed him the screenshots I'd taken. The unauthorized bank transfers, Amanda's online search history on my computer for how to claim incompetence, the car listing she'd created without my knowledge. "Ask your wife why she needs access to my accounts, Jack. Ask her about the financial impropriety charges in her hometown. Ask her why she's researching how to have me declared incompetent." Jack turned to Amanda, his expression stricken. For the first time since I'd known her, Amanda seemed at a loss for words. "Is this true?" Jack asked her. "She's twisting everything," Amanda insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. I held Jack's gaze. "I've never lied to you, son. Not once in your life. Think about everything that's happened since you gave Amanda power of attorney. Think about whether these actions show concern for my well-being or interest in my assets." As Jack processed this, understanding gradually dawned in his eyes, followed by something that broke my heart: shame. In the days that followed, I stayed with Barbara, while consulting regularly with Richard about securing my assets and documenting Amanda's actions. Dr. Myers completed my cognitive assessment, confirming what I already knew: I was perfectly competent to manage my own affairs. Jack called several times, always when Amanda was at work. His voice carried the weight of someone whose world had been upended. "I don't understand how this happened, Mom. I thought we were helping you. Did you really think I needed that kind of help, Jack? Or did you simply not question what Amanda told you?" He had no answer for that. 1 week after I donated my car, Sarah called with news that lifted my spirits. "Evelyn, I wanted you to know that your Buick has already helped 3 children get to critical appointments. One little boy, Max, had been missing chemotherapy treatments because his single mother couldn't take more time off work without losing her job. Your car got him there this week." Tears welled in my eyes. "That's exactly why I became a nurse, Sarah, to help children like Max. We've put your name on the door, Evelyn's Hope Mobile. The kids love it." That afternoon, as Barbara and I were having tea, Amanda's SUV screeched into the driveway. She stormed to the door alone, pounding until Barbara reluctantly answered. "Where is she?" Amanda demanded, pushing past Barbara. She found me in the living room and thrust a stack of papers toward me. "These just arrived at your house. Apparently, you've donated your car to charity without consulting your family. Do you have any idea how much money you've thrown away?" I set my teacup down carefully. "I've given my car to an organization that helps sick children access medical care. I consider that money well spent." "It wasn't yours to give. Jack and I were counting on that money." The admission hung in the air between us. "And there it is," I said quietly. "The truth." Amanda realized her mistake immediately, but instead of retreating, she doubled down. "You're being selfish. We've been trying to help you plan for your care. Do you know how expensive assisted living is? That car could have covered months of fees." "I don't need assisted living, Amanda. I'm in perfect health, as my recent medical evaluation confirms." I held up the report from Dr. Myers. "And even if I did, it would be my decision to make, not yours." "We'll see about that," she snapped. "There are legal ways to handle parents who can't make sound decisions." Barbara, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. "I think you should leave now, Amanda." "This isn't over," Amanda warned, as she headed for the door. "Jack won't be happy when he hears about this." "Then perhaps Jack should have come himself," I replied. After she left, Barbara put her arm around my shoulders. "Are you okay?" "No," I admitted. "But I'm fighting back, and that feels right." The next day, Sarah invited me to the charity's office to officially welcome me as a volunteer coordinator rather than a driver. "We can't let your nursing experience go to waste just because your car is doing the driving now," she joked. At the charity, I met families whose children were receiving life-saving treatments thanks to reliable transportation. One mother hugged me tightly after learning I had donated the car that took her daughter to dialysis. "You don't know what this means to us," she said. I was having to choose between keeping my job and getting her to treatment. As I settled into my new volunteer role, Jack finally visited alone. He looked tired, with shadows under his eyes I hadn't seen since he was studying for his architecture licensing exam. "I've moved out temporarily," he said without preamble. "I'm staying with Greg." Greg had been his best friend since college. This was serious. "What happened?" I asked. He ran a hand through his hair. "I found out Amanda's been lying about a lot of things. She has credit card debt she never told me about. Nearly $50,000. He looked up at me, his expression pained. "And I saw emails where she was discussing listing your house with her friend Diane, who's a realtor. They were planning to split the commission." I wanted to say "I told you so," but the devastation on my son's face stopped me. Instead, I asked, "What are you going to do now?" "I don't know. I'm seeing a therapist to help me figure that out." He hesitated. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have seen what was happening." "Yes," I agreed. "You should have. But the important thing is that you're seeing it now." He reached for my hand across the table. "The car. It was Dad's gift to you. I should never have let Amanda push you to sell it." "The car is where it needs to be," I said firmly. "It's helping children get medical care. Your father would have approved." Jack nodded, tears in his eyes. Would it be okay if I came to see the charity sometime? To see what Dad's gift is doing now?" "I think that would be wonderful," I said, squeezing his hand. As word spread through our community about my car donation, something unexpected happened. People began stopping me at church or in the grocery store to express their admiration. Several made donations to the children's charity in my name. My friend Nancy organized a small fundraising drive at her women's group. Amanda, meanwhile, escalated her campaign against me. She told relatives I had given away the car during a confused episode. She suggested to neighbors that my hasty move to Barbara's indicated mental instability. When those efforts gained little traction, she attempted a new approach. One afternoon, as I was leaving the charity office, Amanda was waiting in the parking lot. Her hair was unstyled, her usual perfect makeup absent. She looked, for the first time since I'd known her, genuinely vulnerable. "Evelyn, please," she began. "I know we've had our differences, But this is tearing our family apart. Jack won't talk to me. He's talking about divorce. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, meaning it. Despite everything, Jack had loved her. I admit I made mistakes, she continued. I was trying to help, and I got carried away. But I want to make things right. Please, just tell Jack you forgive me. I studied her face, searching for sincerity. Amanda, forgiveness has to be earned through changed behavior. If you want to make things right, start by being honest with Jack, with yourself, and with me. Her expression hardened momentarily, before softening again into pleading. I have been honest. I've told Jack everything. About the debt, about some of my plans for your house. I'm trying to fix this. Then give him time, I advised. Trust takes longer to rebuild than it does to break. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. Will you at least think about coming home? It doesn't look good, you hiding at Barbara's. People are talking. And there it was, the manipulation hidden beneath the apology. Always concerned with appearances, with what people might think. I'm not hiding, Amanda. I'm taking time to ensure my home and assets are secure before I return. When I'm confident of that, I'll go home. She left without further argument, but I noticed she took a picture of my sister's house as she drove away. More documentation for her campaign to paint me as unstable, no doubt. That evening, Jack called. Did Amanda come to see you today? Yes, I confirmed. How did you know? She told me she was going to apologize. He sounded exhausted. Did she? In her way, I said carefully. Jack, I don't want to come between you and your wife. These are issues you need to resolve together. There might not be a together much longer, he said quietly. I found out she's been going through your mail. She intercepted the thank you letter from the children's charity and hid it from me. I closed my eyes, pained for my son's disillusionment. I'm sorry, Jack. Don't apologize, he said firmly. You were right to protect yourself. I wish I had protected you too. 2 weeks after donating my car, I returned to my home, having taken steps to secure my finances and property. Richard had helped me file restraining orders, preventing Amanda from entering my home or accessing any of my accounts. Jack had formally revoked all powers of attorney. My return was quiet but satisfying. I walked through each room, reclaiming my space, rearranging the furniture Amanda had moved, and retrieving items she had packed away. It felt like reclaiming not just my home, but my autonomy. The first morning back in my own bed, I woke early and sat on my porch with coffee, watching the sunrise over the spot where my Buick used to park. Though I missed the car's familiar presence, I felt no regret about its new purpose. My phone rang. Sarah from the charity. Evelyn, I have someone who wants to speak with you. A small voice came on the line. Miss Evelyn, this is Lucy. Your car took me to my cancer treatment yesterday. Mom said I should say thank you. My eyes filled with tears. You're very welcome, Lucy. How old are you, sweetheart? 8. I have leukemia, but Dr. Marshall says I'm fighting it real good. I'm sure you are, I said, my nurse's heart swelling with compassion. You sound very brave. Your car is nice, she continued. It doesn't make me feel sick like the bus. Can I ride in it again? Whenever you need to, I promised. After that call, I threw myself into my volunteer work with renewed purpose. 3 days a week, I coordinated transportation schedules, matching volunteer drivers with children needing rides to medical appointments. I called families to confirm details and followed up to ensure the children had arrived safely. On my 4th day back home, Jack visited. He seemed calmer than before, more determined. I've started therapy, he said as we sat in the kitchen. The therapist thinks I've been enabling Amanda's controlling behavior because of how I felt after Dad died. I nodded, remembering how adrift Jack had seemed as a 10-year-old boy, how desperately he had wanted structure and certainty after his father's sudden death. She says I've been confusing control with care, Jack continued. That I let Amanda take charge because it felt like someone was handling things, like when you took care of everything after Dad died. That makes sense, I said gently. I've also frozen our joint accounts, he added. Amanda's spending was out of control. She bought designer clothes and hid them in the guest room closet with tags still on. Thousands of dollars worth. I listened as Jack detailed the steps he was taking to protect himself financially, while he decided whether the marriage could be saved. I'm proud of you, I told him. It takes courage to face these kinds of truths. She says I've been confusing control with care, Jack continued. That I let Amanda take charge because it felt like someone was handling things, like when you took care of everything after Dad died. The following Sunday at church, Amanda made a surprising appearance. She sat several rows behind me, dressed conservatively, nodding politely to congregation members. After the service, she approached me in the fellowship hall. Evelyn, may I speak with you for a moment? I excused myself from my friends and followed her to a quiet corner, aware of curious eyes following us. I want to apologize, Amanda said, her voice carrying just enough for nearby parishioners to hear. My intentions toward you were good, but I went about things all wrong. I hope you can forgive me. It was a perfect performance, public, just loud enough, with precisely the right expression of contrition. I had spent enough time with Amanda to recognize her tactics. She left without further argument, but I noticed she took a picture of my sister's house as she drove away. More documentation for her campaign to paint me as unstable, no doubt. Her smile tightened slightly. We're in counseling. I'm really trying, Evelyn. I hope you can see that. I'm glad to hear it, I replied. Actions speak louder than words, of course. As she turned to leave, she added, Oh, and I've made a donation to that children's charity to show my support for your decision about the car. I thanked her and watched her work the room, stopping to chat with several of my oldest friends, no doubt crafting her narrative of reconciliation. Later that day, I called Sarah to ask about Amanda's donation. We haven't received anything, Sarah confirmed after checking the records. But sometimes online donations take a few days to process. A week passed, with no donation appearing. Amanda had lied again, this time using charity to burnish her image. Meanwhile, my life developed a new rhythm. Volunteer work 3 days a week, lunch with friends, regular calls with Jack, who was continuing therapy while living separately from Amanda. I started walking each morning, building my stamina and enjoying the peaceful streets of my neighborhood. The only shadow was transportation. Without my car, getting groceries or running errands required coordinating with friends or using expensive ride services. I had saved diligently for retirement, but these extra costs hadn't been in my budget. Nancy, ever observant, noticed my predicament. You need a car, Evelyn. Something economical, but reliable. I sighed. I know. I just haven't had the heart to go car shopping yet. Well, my son-in-law works at the Toyota dealership. Let me make some calls. 2 days later, Nancy picked me up for what she called a casual browse at the dealership. 3 hours later, I drove home in a modest blue Corolla, not as roomy as my Buick, but perfect for my current needs. As I pulled into my driveway, I noticed Jack sitting on my porch steps. He stood as I parked, staring at the new car in surprise. Mom, you bought a car? Just now, I confirmed, showing off my purchase with a small smile. Nancy helped me get a good deal. He walked around it, nodding appreciatively. It suits you. I'm glad you didn't wait for, he trailed off. For what? I prompted. He sighed. Amanda suggested we should buy you a replacement car as a peace offering, but it came with conditions that you'd drop the restraining order. Tell everyone there was just a misunderstanding. He smiled sadly. I learned that from you, Mom. Watching you stand up to Amanda showed me I could do it too. I unlocked my front door, inviting him in. And what did you think of that idea? I thought it was another manipulation, he admitted as we settled in the living room. My therapist helped me see that. I don't know if we can fix this, Mom, he finally said. But I'm starting to accept that it might not be my fault if we can't. As Jack was leaving, his phone rang. He checked the screen and grimaced. It's Amanda. She's been calling constantly since she found out I visited the children's charity yesterday. My heart lifted. You went to see the charity? He nodded, a small smile breaking through his worried expression. I met Lucy, the little girl who rides in Dad's car. She's something else. Made me a drawing of the Buick with wings, said it was her angel car. After Jack left, I sat thinking about everything that had happened since my retirement. The loss of my car had set off a chain of events that revealed Amanda's true character, strengthened my relationship with my son, and given my beloved Buick a new purpose, helping children like Lucy. That evening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Amanda standing there, her expression a careful mask of humility. May I come in, Evelyn? There's something important we need to discuss. Against my better judgment, I let her in. Amanda perched on the edge of my couch, hands clasped tightly in her lap. Gone were the designer clothes and perfect makeup. She wore minimal jewelry and a simple sweater and slacks, presenting herself as the picture of humble regret. I've been doing a lot of thinking, she began, about how things went so wrong between us. I never meant for any of this to happen. I remained silent, waiting. The truth is, she continued, her voice wavering, I've been struggling with some issues. Shopping addiction, anxiety about money. My therapist says it stems from growing up poor, always feeling like I didn't have enough. It was a plausible explanation, and potentially even true. But it didn't excuse her actions. I'm getting help now, she assured me. Twice weekly therapy, a financial counselor. I've cut up my credit cards. She leaned forward earnestly. I want to make amends, Evelyn. To you and to Jack. I love him so much, and I don't want to lose my marriage. What exactly are you asking of me, Amanda? Just give me another chance. Tell Jack you believe I can change. He respects your opinion so much. Her eyes filled with tears. I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I'm really trying. I considered her carefully. Amanda, whether your marriage survives isn't up to me. It's between you and Jack. If you're genuinely committed to change, then do the work. Prove it through consistent actions over time. But you could help, she pressed. If you told Jack you forgive me, that you believe in me. I think Jack needs to make this decision based on his own judgment, not mine. He's finding his voice again, and that's important. Disappointment flashed across her face before she composed herself. I understand. But is there anything I can do to make things right with you? I hate that there's this tension between us. Honesty would be a start, I said. For instance, why did you tell people at church you donated to the children's charity when you hadn't? She flinched, caught off guard. I intended to. I will. Things have been financially tight since Jack froze the accounts. I nodded. Intentions and actions are different things, Amanda. Something to consider in your therapy. She left shortly after, her reconciliation mission clearly not proceeding as planned. I called Jack immediately to give him a heads up about her visit. She's been pushing hard for us to reconcile, he confirmed. Tears, promises, the whole show. Last night she suggested having a baby might heal our family. Oh, Jack. My heart sank at the manipulation tactic. Don't worry, he assured me. I'm not falling for it this time. Greg's letting me stay with him as long as I need, and the therapist is helping me see Amanda's patterns clearly. The next morning, I arrived at the charity to find Sarah beaming. Evelyn, we've been selected for a Community Spotlight Award. The local news wants to do a feature on our transportation program, and specifically on your car donation, that inspired others to contribute. Indeed, since donating my Buick, several other retirees had followed suit, creating a small fleet of donated vehicles serving children with medical needs. The charity's capacity had doubled in just a month. They want to interview you, Sarah continued, and some of the families you've helped. The news feature aired the following week. I spoke briefly about my nursing career and how donating my car felt like extending my commitment to children's health care beyond retirement. Lucy and her mother shared how reliable transportation had allowed Lucy to complete her treatment protocol without interruptions, improving her prognosis dramatically. The response was overwhelming. Donations poured into the charity. People stopped me in the grocery store to express their admiration. My church pastor mentioned the spirit of generosity in our community during his sermon, smiling in my direction. It was during this high point that Amanda made her most calculated move yet. The charity was holding a small reception to thank donors and volunteers when she appeared, perfectly styled once again, carrying a large envelope. "I hope I'm not intruding," she said, approaching Sarah and me. "I wanted to deliver this in person." She handed Sarah a check for exactly twice the value of the Buick I had donated. "This is incredibly generous," Sarah said, clearly surprised. Amanda smiled modestly. "It's the least I can do to support my mother-in-law's cause. Family should stand together, after all." Cameras flashed as Amanda posed with Sarah, the oversized check between them. She had timed her entrance perfectly to coincide with the local newspaper photographer's arrival. The following day, Amanda's generous donation was featured prominently in the community section of the paper. The article mentioned she was Evelyn Wilson's daughter-in-law, creating exactly the public narrative of family unity Amanda had been seeking. When Jack saw the article, he called immediately. "Did you know she was going to do this?" "No," I admitted. "She ambushed the charity event." "Where did she even get that money?" he wondered. "Our accounts are still frozen, except for basic living expenses." The answer came 3 days later, when Jack received a call from his bank. Amanda had taken out a personal loan using their house as collateral without discussing it with him. The loan officer had called Jack as a courtesy, because his name was on the property deed. This betrayal seemed to be the final straw for Jack. He filed for separation and moved all his belongings to Greg's house. When he came to tell me in person, he looked both heartbroken and relieved. "I gave it everything I could, Mom. I really tried to believe she could change." I held my son as he cried for the first time since his father's funeral. The news of their separation spread quickly through our small community. Amanda immediately began crafting her narrative, portraying herself as the devoted wife blindsided by Jack's abandonment. She told mutual friends he was having a midlife crisis. She suggested to neighbors that his judgment was impaired by family issues, clearly meaning me. Most people saw through her tactics, but a few accepted her version of events. Jack lost several casual friends who believed Amanda's stories. I received a few cool receptions at church from those who thought I had somehow engineered their marital problems. Through it all, I continued my volunteer work at the charity, finding purpose and joy in helping families navigate medical challenges. Lucy completed her final round of chemotherapy and rang the ceremonial bell, signifying the end of treatment. Her mother credited the consistent transportation with making the difference in Lucy's recovery. "Before your car came along, she told me during Lucy's celebration party we were missing treatments because I couldn't get off work. Her doctor said those missed appointments were compromising the protocol's effectiveness. Now she's in remission." Watching Lucy run and play with other children at the party, her strength returning after months of grueling treatment, I felt a profound sense of peace. Whatever drama Amanda created, whatever community gossip swirled, this child was alive and thriving, partly because of my decision to donate the Buick. Then came the day that changed everything. Amanda appeared at the charity office, asking to speak with Sarah and me privately. She looked different. Her designer outfit replaced by simple jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back without styling, her face bare of makeup. "I've come to apologize," she said, her voice lacking its usual polish. "And to confess." She placed a folder on the desk between us. "The check I gave the charity, it's going to bounce. The loan I took out has been frozen by the court because Jack contested it. I wanted you to know before you tried to deposit it." Sarah and I exchanged glances. He nodded, a small smile breaking through his worried expression. "I met Lucy, the little girl who rides in Dad's car. She something else made me a drawing of the Buick with wings, said it was her angel car. Amanda closed her eyes briefly. I'm sorry. I'll find a way to make it right. Why did you do it? I asked. Write a check you knew might not clear? Her composure cracked. Because I was desperate. Jack was pulling away. Everyone was praising you. I needed to show I could be generous too. That I was a good person. By giving away money that wasn't yours? Sarah asked quietly. Amanda crumpled into a chair. I've lost everything. Jack won't speak to me. The court froze our accounts after they found my hidden credit cards. I'm facing bankruptcy. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. And the worst part is, I did it to myself. It was the first completely honest thing I had ever heard Amanda say. What will you do now? I asked. My sister's letting me stay with her. I've got a job interview at the mall next week, nothing like my pharmaceutical sales position, but I need to start somewhere. She wiped her eyes. I've been going to Debtors Anonymous meetings. They're helping me see how sick my relationship with money has been. Despite everything, I felt a flicker of compassion. That sounds like a positive step, Amanda. She nodded. The therapist says I have to make amends as part of my recovery. Real amends, not just words. She turned to Sarah. I can't replace the money right now, but I'd like to volunteer. Evenings, weekends, whatever you need, until I've worked off the debt. Sarah looked skeptical but nodded. We can always use help with administrative work. Filing, data entry. Thank you, Amanda said quietly. And Evelyn, I'm truly sorry for how I treated you. You didn't deserve any of it. After she left, Sarah turned to me. Do you believe her? I don't know, I admitted. But if she's genuinely trying to change, who am I to stand in the way? Later that evening, I told Jack about Amanda's visit. He listened without interrupting, his expression thoughtful. Do you think she's manipulating us again? He finally asked. It's possible, I acknowledged. But this felt different. There was no audience, no one to impress, just a private admission of wrongdoing. Jack nodded slowly. My therapist says people can change if they truly want to and do the hard work. But trust has to be earned back gradually, with consistent behavior over time. Wise words? I agreed. He squeezed my hand. I'm still proceeding with the divorce, but I hope, for Amanda's sake, that she's finding her way to something healthier. That night, I sat on my porch, watching fireflies dance in the early summer darkness. My new car sat in the driveway smaller than the Buick, but serving my needs perfectly. My home was secure. My son was healing. Children like Lucy were receiving life-saving treatment. From the wreckage of Amanda's attempted takeover of my life had emerged something unexpectedly beautiful, a renewed sense of purpose, stronger boundaries, and the knowledge that even at 65, I was capable of standing firm in my own truth. The next morning, Sarah called with news that brought everything full circle. Evelyn, remember how you mentioned your Buick needed new tires soon when you donated it? We finally got funding for maintenance, and when the mechanic was doing the inspection, he found something tucked under the spare tire in the trunk. What was it? I asked, curious. A small box with your name on it, and a letter dated 15 years ago, from Thomas. My heart stopped. Thomas? My husband? Yes. The mechanic turned it in to me. I haven't opened it, of course, but I wanted you to know right away. I drove to the charity immediately, my hands shaking, as Sarah handed me a small wooden box I'd never seen before. The letter attached was indeed in Thomas's handwriting, addressed simply, For Evelyn, when the time is right. I took the box home, setting it carefully on my kitchen table. For nearly an hour, I simply looked at it, running my fingers over the smooth wood, tracing Thomas's handwriting on the envelope. It had been 15 years since I'd seen those familiar strokes, the slightly slanted E, the loop in the Y that curved back on itself. Finally, I opened the letter. My dearest Evelyn, it began. If you're reading this, something has happened to me, and you've kept our Buick long enough that you've discovered this hiding place. I tucked this away the day I brought the car home, hoping you'd never need to find it, but wanting to leave you something just in case. Tears blurred my vision, as Thomas's voice seemed to fill the room. Inside this box is something to help you when it's time to move forward. Not to replace our life together, but to build something new when you're ready. I picked the Buick because it's solid, dependable, and built to last just like you, just like our love. When you no longer need this car, it means you've found your way forward. That's when you'll need what's in this box. With trembling hands, I opened the wooden box. Inside lay a smaller velvet jewelry box, and beneath it, a bank statement. The jewelry box contained my mother-in-law's diamond ring, a family heirloom Thomas had inherited, but that I'd never worn because my engagement ring had been enough for me. The bank statement showed a separate account I'd known nothing about, with 15 years of accumulated interest. Thomas had set aside $20,000 as a secret safety net. A small note tucked into the bank statement read simply, "For your next chapter, live it beautifully. All my love, T." I sat at my kitchen table, crying and laughing at once. Somehow, 15 years after his death, Thomas had managed to provide exactly what I needed at exactly the right moment. The funds would cover the loan I'd taken for my new car with plenty left over. The ring could be reset for Jack someday, if he ever found someone worthy of it. More than the material gifts, Thomas had given me confirmation that I'd made the right choice. By donating the Buick, I had indeed moved forward. I had found a new chapter. And now, I had his blessing to live it beautifully. I called Jack immediately. When he arrived, and I showed him his father's gifts and letter, he broke down completely. "Dad was still looking out for us," he whispered, "all this time." "He always did think ahead," I said, smiling through my tears. In the weeks that followed, I watched with cautious optimism as Amanda began the long process of making amends. True to her word, she volunteered at the charity, taking on the most tedious administrative tasks without complaint. She moved into a small apartment, got a job at a department store, and attended her support group meetings consistently. When the charity's check from her bounced, she worked out a payment plan, contributing a portion of each paycheck to gradually repay the debt. She made no excuses, sought no publicity for her efforts, and never used her volunteer work to try to contact Jack. 6 months after our separation, Jack invited Amanda to meet for coffee. He returned from that meeting thoughtful, but resolute. "She's different," he told me, "quieter, more thoughtful." She apologized without making excuses and didn't ask me to take her back. "What do you think about that?" I asked carefully. "I think people can change if they want to badly enough," he said. "But trust takes time to rebuild. We're going to try joint counseling, not to reconcile necessarily, but to find a healthier way forward, whatever that looks like." I nodded, respecting his cautious approach. The 1-year anniversary of my car donation arrived with a celebration at the charity. Sarah presented me with a scrapbook documenting all the children who had received transportation in Evelyn's Hope Mobile over the past year. 63 children had made it to life-saving treatments because of reliable transportation. Lucy, now in remission and growing stronger each day, presented me with a hand-drawn card. "Thank you for helping me beat cancer," she had written in colorful crayon letters. To my surprise, Amanda attended the celebration, staying quietly in the background as she helped serve refreshments. At one point, I found her looking at the photographs of children helped by the charity's transportation program. "It really did make a difference," she said softly. "Your car, your donation. I was so focused on the money that I couldn't see the true value of what you were doing." "It's never too late to learn to see differently," I told her. When Jack graduated with his architecture degree, he insisted on driving us home in that same car. "Dad would be so proud," he had said, and I knew it was true. Jack had grown into everything his father had hoped for. Smart, ambitious, and kind. "But," I prompted gently, "sometimes healing a relationship means letting it transform into something different," she said. "We might be better as friends than as husband and wife." It was a level of insight and acceptance I wouldn't have believed possible from the Amanda I first met. As the celebration wound down, Jack arrived, having come directly from work. He greeted Amanda cordially, then came to stand beside me as Sarah made a final announcement. "Thanks to Evelyn's initial donation, and the generosity it inspired, we've now expanded our fleet to 6 vehicles. This year, we'll be able to help over 200 children access medical care. The room erupted in applause. Jack squeezed my hand, his eyes shining with pride. Later that evening, Jack, Barbara, Nancy and I sat on my porch, watching the sunset and sharing memories. The comfortable silence was broken when Jack cleared his throat. "I have some news," he said. "Amanda and I have decided to divorce." I looked at him carefully. "Are you okay with that decision?" He nodded. "It's amicable. We both recognize that too much damage was done, even though she's working hard on her recovery. She suggested I keep the house, and she'll take her car and a fair settlement. No drama, no fighting." "That's very mature," I observed. "We're both in a better place now," Jack said. "I'm stronger, she's more self-aware. And honestly, Mom, a lot of that is because of you." "Me?" I asked, surprised. "You showed me what healthy boundaries look like, how to stand up for yourself with dignity, how to be generous without being a doormat." He smiled. "Donating your car instead of letting Amanda sell it? That was genius. It protected your asset while helping others." I laughed. I wish I could claim it was all strategy, but truthfully, I just wanted to do the right thing. "That's what makes it even better," Nancy chimed in. "Your first instinct was to help those kids, not to get back at Amanda." As darkness fell, my friends departed, leaving me alone with my thoughts. I sat watching the stars emerge, feeling a profound sense of peace that had been absent in the tumultuous months since my retirement. She nodded. "Jack and I have been talking more in our joint sessions. The counselor thinks we've made progress, but—" she trailed off. She left without further argument, but I noticed she took a picture of my sister's house as she drove away. More documentation for her campaign to paint me as unstable, no doubt. My retirement had begun with a challenge I never expected, but it had transformed into an opportunity to redefine my boundaries, my relationships, and my purpose. By standing firm in my truth, I had not only protected myself, but had inadvertently created a path for others to find their way to healthier lives as well. As I headed inside, I paused to look at the empty spot in my driveway where my Buick had once stood, and then, at my new car parked beside it, a symbol of my next chapter. I thought of Lucy, healthy and running again, of Jack, finding his way back to himself, even of Amanda, doing the hard work of facing her own destructive patterns. Jack nodded, tears in his eyes. "Can I? Would it be okay if I came to see the charity sometime? To see what Dad's gift is doing now? Have you ever had to stand up to someone who was trying to control your life? How did you handle it, and what did you learn? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. If this story resonated with you, please like it, subscribe to hear more, and share it with someone who might need to be reminded of their own strength and worth. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply smile and make your own choices.